When you think about the great ancient civilizations, your mind probably jumps straight to Egypt or Mesopotamia, right? But what if I told you that 4,500 years ago, there was this other superpower, one that stretched across 1,000,000 square kilometers of what's now Pakistan and India? It was by far the largest of its time. These were the people of the Indus Valley, and they left behind a puzzle that's been driving historians crazy for a century. And this is where it gets really tricky. The biggest problem is that we can't read their writing. Their script is a complete mystery. So we don't have any epic histories, no lists of kings, no sacred texts to spell things out for us. To figure them out, we basically have to become detectives, piecing their story together from the clues they left buried in the ground. Okay, so clue number one, it comes from the ruins of their absolutely incredible cities, places like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. And listen, these weren't just a random collection of houses. They were masterpieces of urban planning, built on a scale that was just mind-boggling for the ancient world.
So John Marshall, one of the first archaeologists on the scene, was just completely blown away by what he found. I mean, this quote really captures his shock. It wasn't just that they had drains. It's that this incredible public works project served everybody. The richest neighborhoods, the poorest neighborhoods, it didn't matter. That suggests a level of civic planning and, dare I say, social equality that was pretty much unheard of back then.
And just look at the engineering skill on display here. We are not talking about some little ditch dug in the dirt. This is a massive, brick-lined drain with a proper arched ceiling, big enough for a person to walk right through. To build something like this requires serious foresight, centralized planning, and a really sophisticated understanding of sanitation. It's just incredible.
So they were brilliant city planners. But they weren't just stuck at home, building amazing drains. Our second clue shows us they were major players in a huge, ancient global network, connecting civilizations across thousands of miles.
And you find the evidence for this trade all over the Middle East. Archaeologists have dug up these distinctive Indus seals, think of them like their unique business cards, right in the heart of Mesopotamian cities like Ur. We know they were shipping out valuable stuff like timber, ivory, and beautiful shells. And their most famous export? These gorgeous red carnelian beads with etched white patterns, a super high-end luxury item found all the way over in modern-day Iraq.
And hey, this isn't just us guessing. We have it in writing from the Mesopotamians themselves. You've got actual kings like the famous Sargon the Great bragging about it. The ships from Meluhha, that's what they called the Indus region, were pulling right up to their docks. It shows this was a known, important part of their economy more than 4,000 years ago. So let's recap. We've got these super smart city planners who are also savvy international merchants. But this is where our detective story takes a really fascinating twist. Just because they were connected to the world doesn't mean they were following its lead.
Now you would think, right, with all this trade happening with a powerhouse like Mesopotamia, the Indus people would have just adopted their systems, kind of copied their homework. But our third clue proves that is absolutely not what happened. They had a fiercely independent streak. To get this, we've got to talk about weights. I know, sounds a little boring, but stick with me because this is cool. A civilization's weight system is kind of like its economic DNA. It's how the state controls everything, making sure every transaction is fair and that they get their taxes.
Here's the wild part. It turns out that from Mesopotamia all the way to Europe, pretty much everyone was using the same basic weight system. A merchant could travel thousands of kilometers and their weights would still work. But the minute they set foot in the Indus Valley, totally useless. The Indus folks had their own unique, incredibly precise system and they stuck to it. They were playing their own game.
Okay, let's bring all our clues together. Time to deliver the verdict on this mysterious civilization. What does all of this evidence actually tell us about who these people were?
Well, our investigation has given us 3 key facts. First, those incredible drains prove they were sophisticated planners who cared about their cities. Second, all that trade shows they were deeply connected to the world. And third, those unique weights? Man, that proves they were proud, independent innovators who marched to the beat of their own drum.
And that, right there, is the big takeaway. The Indus Valley civilization wasn't some kind of little brother to Mesopotamia. No way. They were a co-equal superpower, a true peer on the world stage. They were totally engaged with other cultures, but they never, ever lost their own distinct, innovative identity.
And if you're still not convinced of how big a deal they were, just look at this. The sheer size of their territory. At its peak, the Indus civilization covered 1.2 million square kilometers. That absolutely dwarfs the area Mesopotamia controlled. They were, by a huge margin, the biggest and most widespread civilization of their time.
Which brings us right back to that ultimate mystery, doesn't it?
For all the fantastic clues we can piece together from drains and beads and weights, the biggest secrets of the Indus people are still locked away in a script we just can't read. What would they tell us if we could finally understand their words? What kind of society did they build? What do they believe? What new chapters of human history are just sitting there, waiting to be written? It really makes you wonder.